want to be over there. Y'all ready?
What was the reason?
Cause he can suck and pacify over there. Till he was 12 years old. He was sucking pacify till he was 12 years old. He couldn't do that in the house.
He cried like a baby. Hold his breath.
Yeah.
They trying to say I was over there trying to suck a passy, but they ain't gonna tell you everything like that. They trying to hide it.
What's going on?
Bro, come on. It's all right. My bad.
Go on out there with him.
Got a grandson on the way.
Wow.
King's about to have a son.
King's about to have a son. Congrats.
Yeah. And I told him I'm gonna make this the greatest gangster of all times. I will raise this child to torture you the way that you tortured me. I promise you, there will be an indictment in this young one.
This ain't your fucking restaurant. This ain't your fucking restaurant. Everything you make, I can pull out my pocket right now. I ain't tripping on you.
Things inside the Harris household aren't just tense, they're volatile. The name on everyone's lips is Big Nana, and the whispers around her are turning into full-blown chatter. People close to the situation claim she's been playing the long game with King for months, leaning into his emotions, then nudging him toward a choice that tied them together for good. That's the rumor, a strategic pregnancy to lock into the Harris legacy. Whether you believe it or not, the timing alone had the internet calling it a setup. The sort of move that doesn't aim for love, it aims for access. T.I. didn't miss the signs. Say what you want about him, but he can spot a shaky vibe from across the room. He's been through fame, lawsuits, headlines, and enough industry politics to know when someone's orbiting for the wrong reasons. From the start, he told King that something felt off, that the attention wasn't matching the affection, that the lifestyle seemed louder than the loyalty, and he wasn't speaking in riddles either. He laid it out plain.
King, have you ever woke up with a roach on your face?
No, that's not the goal.
All right, then. So there it goes.
Or in your ear.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I had some in the neighborhood with me that broke up with roach in their face.
Roach in your ear?
Y'all wanna go to the bando in my neighborhood? Do y'all wanna go to the bando? Do y'all wanna go to the bando? To make him look better, he said he know not true. Silver spoon, I ain't never ate with that day a day in my life.
You did have a silver spoon.
Look, I used to have to come to my grandma's house because I'm getting in the
You
fight.
cried like a baby to go to your grandmama's house.
Every day.
You used to hold your breath.
Every
It's
day.
no tantrum to go over there.
Neighborhood. I don't want to be in these gates. I want to be outside in the neighborhood. That's why I want to be over there. But they don't understand that.
No, I'm going to tell you the reason why he want to be over there. Y'all ready?
What was the reason?
Cause he can suck and pacify over there till he was 12 years old. He was sucking pacify till he was 12 years old. He couldn't do that in the house.
He cried like a baby. Hold his breath.
Yeah.
They trying to say I was over there trying to suck a passy, but they ain't gonna tell you everything like that. They trying to hide it.
Ain't nobody hiding
Sugarcoat it. He capping.
Hey.
Ain't no business. Ain't no nigga ever pull our car ever in life. I stand on business. Somewhere, I stand on business. You got me in your hood, I stand on business.
I don't feel like you stand on business.
Yeah. I've been stood on business. I've been stood on business. You want to hide it for the world, I'm going to put it out there for them to see.
Hey, man,
I want to put up nowhere. You ain't had me put up nowhere. Like, you ain't had me behind a mansion. I was outside doing what I wanted to do.
You was behind that till you cried.
No, I got too much to drink. I drunk too much. Let's go. Now, get mad because we say the South ain't the suburbs. Then he want to talk about some other shit. Like this being shit. This being shit. No, I'm being real. You lying. You up here flagging. You're capping. You capping.
You're upset. You're mad.
You capping. I know you. You capping. I know you.
Ain't no mystery, man.
I know you though. I know you though. I know you. What's wrong with y'all? Why y'all doing that to me? Y'all know me. You know I stand on business. Why you even letting somebody play with me like that? Why you letting somebody play with me like that? Why you letting him play with me like that? No, ain't no joking. What do you mean?
You are embarrassing yourself. You're embarrassing yourself. You are embarrassing yourself. You are embarrassing yourself. Man, what is you talking about?
Get off me, nigga. Man, get off me, nigga.
Well, you can't do nothing with me. Ain't shit you can do with me.
This wasn't going to be another story where someone glides into the family and glides out with the bag. That's where the line got drawn. No matter how loud the noise got online, T.I. made his position louder. He wasn't funding Nana. He wasn't covering baby costs. He wasn't opening the Harris accounts just because a last name was in the mix. If King wanted to be grown, he'd carry it like a man, diapers, doctors, everything. The message wasn't sugar-coated and it wasn't for applause. It was a boundary, and boundaries don't bend just because the timeline is messy. For King, that turned the conversation from gossip to reality. The checks he used to lean on, off the table. The cushion that came with the Harris name, gone. All that's left is responsibility. Expensive, exhausting, relentless responsibility. And that's exactly how T.I. wanted it. Not to be cruel, but to be clear. Fatherhood isn't a trend. It's not a caption. It's not a storyline you flip when the views dip. It's a forever decision, and it either matures you or it breaks you. But that wasn't the whole story. The tension didn't start with the pregnancy. It had already spilled into the open long before that. King's temper was building in plain sight, and one night it detonated on camera. He went live mid-argument, talking fast, chest out, repeating that line he'd been trying to brand into his identity. I stand on business. The crowd noise fed the moment, and instead of letting it cool off, he doubled down.
This ain't your fucking restaurant. This ain't your fucking restaurant. Everything you make, I can pull out my pocket right now. I ain't tripping on you. I ain't tripping. Get the hell out of my face. I'm not talking to you. I'm not talking to you. Who the hell is he? What's your name? My name King. You know it and your mama know it. Tell your mama Happy Mother's Day. Tell your mama Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day. File your shit.
Come back.
What? On game what? On game what? Come here. Come here. I'll show you what I do. Come here. I'll show you what I do. Come here. Come here.
Snapping back at anyone who questioned him, insisting he didn't grow up with a silver spoon, and daring somebody to pull his card. That's when T.I. stepped in and the tone changed. No manager, no PR, no buffer. Just a father trying not to let his son spiral in front of thousands of eyes. He told King flat out he was embarrassing himself, embarrassing the family, and turning a loud moment into a lasting stain. King kept firing back, and in seconds the discussion went from tense to physical. The clip burned across timelines, T.I. locking him up, the kind of grip that says enough when words stop working. People picked sides instantly. Some called it humiliating, others called it necessary. But even after the clip, King wouldn't let the narrative settle. He pushed the I came from struggle angle harder, saying folks didn't know what he'd seen outside the gates, talking about time at his grandma's crib and trying to frame it as the real texture of his childhood. The internet wasn't buying all of it. They clapped back with receipts, reminding him who his father is, pointing to the mansion, the shows, the access. The more he argued, the more they called cap, like he was trying to retrofit a backstory that didn't match the footage. Then came the part that threw gasoline on the discord. Claims that he only really popped up at his parents' place when the cameras were rolling for the family show, then dipped back to his grandma's after filming. It explained some of his defiance, but it didn't erase the privilege people kept pointing to.
This ain't your fucking restaurant. This ain't your fucking restaurant. Everything you make, I can pull out my pocket right now. I ain't tripping on you. I ain't tripping. Get the hell out of my face. I'm not talking to you. I'm not talking to you.
The optics were ugly. King yelling he stands on business while the world said he was standing on image. And right in the middle of that mess sat T.I. trying to pull his son back to ground level before the wrong reputation stuck to him permanently. The argument never really ended. It just faded into a quiet that felt temporary. And in that quiet, something else was already forming. News that would pull every old clip and every old quote back into focus. Before the headlines started screaming, the Harris household looked like it was easing into a calmer era. Zonique welcomed a baby girl back in 2020, and the family wore the grandparent title like a fresh badge. Around that same time, Domini stepped into fatherhood too, quieter, more mature, letting actions speak. From the outside, it seemed like a natural shift, the next generation growing up while T.I. and Tiny settled into guidance mode. Then came the curveball. During a radio sit-down, T.I. confirmed what the whispers had been hinting at. King was expecting with his girlfriend, but the way he said it stopped people in their tracks. The announcement didn't land like a celebration. It felt guarded, like a father reading the play and not liking the formation. No balloons, no victory lap, just a fact delivered with the kind of tone that says we're about to deal with something. That's when the red flags around Big Nana started waving in public, not just in private. The age gap became part of the conversation. So did the question nobody wanted to say out loud at first. Was this love or leverage? T.I. didn't tiptoe. He'd seen too many careers knocked off course by the wrong partnership at the wrong time. He told King to keep his head clear and his heart protected, and he drew the same boundary he's drawn for decades. Nobody eats off this family unless they bring integrity to to the table. Meanwhile, King was still trying to define himself in real time. Half of him wanted to be the grown man who doesn't need anyone. The other half still moved like he expected the net to appear whenever he jumped. And that tension showed up everywhere on live streams, at games, and interviews. So when the pregnancy news hit, it didn't come wrapped in a bow. It came with questions, and the biggest one was simple. If King wants to be seen as his own man, is he ready to carry what comes with it? Because for T.I., this wasn't just about a headline or a hashtag. It was about patterns, and he knows patterns better than anyone. He studied the industry, lived the consequences, and learned the price of a sloppy decision. And the pattern he saw said this: if you ignore the early warnings, the fallout is always more expensive later. But that wasn't the whole picture, because the public timeline didn't match the private one. King's story splits in two depending on where you're standing. On one side, there's the mansion, the gates, the cameras, the kind of access most artists grind a decade for and still never touch. On the other, there's the version he keeps insisting on, nights at his grandma's, a neighborhood that didn't care who his father was, and a kid trying to prove he could breathe without the cushion of a famous last name. Both can be true, but the internet doesn't like nuance. It wants a winner and a liar. That's why the silver spoon argument hit so hard. When King said he didn't eat off one, people dragged out receipts like court exhibits. Clips rolled, photos resurfaced, and the comments went for the jugular. Your dad is T.I. Stop acting like you clawed your way out the mud. It wasn't just hate, it was frustration. Fans have watched too many second-generation stars build a tough backstory out of thin air, and they weren't letting another one slide. Then he added the detail that complicated everything. He talked about spending real time at his grandma's place, away from the marble floors and perfect landscaping, long stretches where he wasn't living under T.I. and Tiny's roof unless the red light on a reality show camera was blinking. When filming stopped, he said he was back at grandma's. It didn't erase the privilege, but it did explain the chip on his shoulder. If your life is half limelight and half regular, you get stuck trying to prove which half defines you. And it wasn't just King. The family dynamic had cracks that only showed up if you looked past the highlight reel. Zanique admitted she stayed with Tiny's mom. The schedule was the schedule: tours, shoots, studios, flights. Money covers bills. It doesn't cover presence. That absence left space for resentment to grow quietly, and King filled that space with bravado. Every time he shouted, "I stand on business," you could hear the echo of someone trying to be seen by the people who made him, but perception still runs the show. To the public, King's "I suffered too" explanation sounded like an edit, like picking the grittiest scenes from a life that also had chauffeurs and chandeliers. And once people decide your narrative is manufactured, everything you say feels like spin. That's the box he's in now, a kid who might have real stories but can't tell them without the world asking if they've been sanded down for effect. This is exactly why the Nana situation exploded. To his critics, it looked like another chapter in the same book, moving reckless to prove he isn't pampered, choosing chaos to prove he's independent, inviting pressure just to show he can carry it. And to his father, it looked like a pattern that needed to be broken before it broke him. T.I. wasn't trying to win points online. He was trying to shut the door on a decision that could drain a lifetime in slow motion. So the line stayed where he drew it. The Harris accounts are not a safety net for somebody else's strategy. King can love who he wants, build what he wants, and call himself whatever he wants. But the bill is his. If the image is grown man, then the reality has to match. And that's where the next shift happens, because once the money talk turned into a boundary, the whispers about influence got a lot louder. Once the money line was drawn, the conversation shifted from gossip to gravity. Insiders started whispering that Nana wasn't just in the picture, she was directing the frame. They painted a story of steady pressure, isolating King from the people who would slow him down, feeding the idea that parental guidance was really control, and that real independence meant building a life away from the Harris net. If you've watched enough young artists lose their footing, you've seen this movie before. Affection gets mixed with strategy, and by the time you notice, the choices are permanent. The age gap only added fuel. Critics said experience gives you leverage, especially when the other person is still defining himself in public. They called it calculated. They called it a long play. And fair or not, once the pregnancy hit the timeline, people stopped calling it a rumor and started calling it a plan. That's why T.I. moved the way he did. He didn't go vague. He didn't hedge. He set a policy. No checks, no we'll see, no backdoor stipends. If King wanted adulthood, he'd wear every part of it. Rent, diapers, appointments, late nights, early mornings, not as punishment as proof. And that hit social media like a charge. One side said T.I. was cold. That family should cover family and keep the details off the air. The other side said this was the only lesson that might actually land. They'd watch King talk tough, bark about standing on business, and then aim the conversation back to image. A boundary you can't negotiate with is the one you remember. If a famous last name can't buy your way out, every decision starts to feel real. The bigger debate cracked open too. What happens to kids who grow up with all the resources but without enough presence? Zanaque's and King's grandma house timelines became Exhibit A for fans arguing that proximity matters more than penthouses. They weren't excusing the chaos, they were explaining the pressure. King's defiance, they said, looked like a note passed across years, see me. And if someone steps steps in at that moment and says, "I see you more than they do," it's easy to mistake influence for love. But even if all of that is true, T.I.'s play didn't change. He was done debating motives and done arguing optics. He addressed the leverage by removing the lever. If access to the Harris accounts was the prize, that prize no longer existed. If clout was the currency, he wasn't exchanging it. He refused to let a rumor become policy just because the timeline kept pressing. That's not cruelty, that's control over the narrative of your own home. Meanwhile, the king wanted the hood life, now he's got it. Talk got louder. Comment sections turned into courts, and the verdicts weren't kind. People reminded him of every time he minimized his father's role, every time he said he didn't need help, every time he tried to harden his story. Okay, the internet said carry it. It wasn't empathy, but it was clarity. Sometimes clarity is what breaks a pattern. And still, the question didn't go away. Was Nana masterminding a move, or was King marching there on his own? Maybe it's both. Maybe she amplified what he already wanted to be seen as separate, grown, uncoachable. The problem is that grown has a receipt, and it always gets rung up at the register. That's why T.I. took his hands off the wallet and put his foot on the brake. He's not stopping the relationship, he's stopping the subsidy. If you zoom out, this is the fork in the road every legacy family hits. You can love your kids loudly and still refuse to underwrite their worst impulses. You can hold your son down emotionally and still let him hold the bill financially. That balance is messy in private and brutal in public, but it's the only way some lessons ever stick. And while the family wrestled with that lesson, another cost started stacking up, one that doesn't care about bank accounts or last name: the cost of perception. Because in music, the story you tell about yourself can launch you or lock you in place. In music, the camera doesn't just record, it decides. And lately, it hasn't been filming studio sessions. It's been glued to the mess, instead of a single that forces people to take him seriously. King's timeline reads like a highlight reel of arguments, lives, clapbacks, and a relationship that turned into a headline. The result is brutal. The conversation shifted from bars to behavior. Fans stopped asking, "When's the next drop?" and started asking, "What's the next incident?" That shift is hard to undo. Once people decide your brand is chaos, your art has to be undeniable to pull them back. And when the loudest moments are public blowups and baby mama rumors, the algorithm learns your name for the wrong reason. Labels, blogs, and playlists watch that pattern. They don't say it out loud, but they track it. Is the audience here for music or for mayhem? If it's the latter, doors quietly close. The timing couldn't be worse for an artist still fighting for a clean lane. King wanted credit for doing it on his own, but the content around him keeps suggesting he's stuck in a loop, proving toughness, chasing independence, then getting dragged by the same choices that were supposed to show growth. It's not that he can't make music, it's that the noise is swallowing the melody. T.I. sees that risk clearer than anyone. He's been the headline and survived it. He knows how one reckless season can cost 5 good years. That's why his boundary wasn't only about money, it was about momentum. If a family bankroll keeps cushioning bad optics, the lesson never lands and the cycle never breaks. Remove the cushion and every decision echoes. You hear the cost in real time. Meanwhile, the internet did what it always does, turn nuance into a scoreboard. One side says King's being played, the other says he's playing himself. Either way, the narrative drags the music under. Even the hood upbringing claim got recut into a meme, mansion by day, struggle by caption. It's harsh, but that's the reality of perception. When your story feels edited, your songs have to be undeniable to make people listen without rolling their eyes. Here's the quiet truth nobody wants to hear. Controversy can spark curiosity, but it can't sustain a career. The audience might click once to see the drama, they only stay if the music rewires the room. Until King delivers a run of records that drowns out the discourse will do the talking for him. And right now that voice is loud, but that wasn't the end of the reckoning, because once T.I. took the conversation public, the debate over how became just as loud as the debate over why. Once T.I. spoke plainly, the internet split clean down the middle. One camp said a father is supposed to protect the home quietly, fix the mess behind closed doors, and never feed the blog. The other camp said sunlight is a disinfectant, and if rumors are turning into leverage, the fastest way to kill a narrative is to say the quiet part out loud. T.I. chose the second option, not out of spite, but out of strategy. If the play was access, then the counterplay was clarity. No access, no ambiguity, no maybe later. People who followed his career understood the move. He's seen what happens when a private mistake meets a public machine. If you don't own the mic will own you, so he claimed it. He cut through the whispers with a line that couldn't be misread. Love your kid, love your grandkid, still not paying for a plan that wasn't his. It wasn't a clapback, it was a policy. Policies don't argue, they apply. That didn't stop the think pieces. Critics dragged his parenting, pointing to years of travel, filming, business meetings, and that revolving door of grown-up responsibilities that kept the house humming but thinned out the day-to-day present. They said you can't outsource time and then be shocked when a kid tests the brakes. Supporters answered with a different angle. Presence matters, yes, but so does a spine. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let consequences finish what lectures started. Meanwhile, the rumor mill kept throwing sparks. Was Nana truly plotting, or was she just the most convenient villain for a story that was already unsteady? The truth probably lives in the the gray. Influence doesn't need a blueprint. It only needs a willing echo. King's need to be seen made him loud. Her need to be believed made her steady. Put those together and you get a drum beat that drowns out better choices. T.I. refused to dance to it. He didn't ban a relationship. He didn't torch bridges. He just turned off the faucet. If money is the microphone in a legacy family, he lowered the volume to 0. That's what a boundary is. An answer to a question you're done hearing. And the question he kept hearing was whether the Harris name was a bank you could access with a rumor. It isn't. There's another layer here that fans notice, the way King interprets pressure. To him, any barrier looks like a dare. Say don't, and he hears try me. That stubbornness can build stars and wreck them. It's the trait that can turn a critic into fuel or a wise warning into white noise. And when a child has it, a parent has to choose. Wrestle the fire or build a safe perimeter and let the flame meet the wind on its own. T.I. picked the perimeter. So the debate raged, but the decision held. No payout, no performative support, no half measures that blur the lesson. If King is the man he says he is, then he'll navigate like one, not posture like one. If he's ready for family, he's ready for bills, schedules, and quiet sacrifices that don't trend. And that sets up the only chapter that really matters now. The one where talk stops and trajectory starts. Everything that felt theoretical is real now. The jokes, the lives, the posturing, none of it pays a pediatrician. None of it calms a crying newborn at 3 a.m. and none of it cleans up when a moment gets bigger than your pride. King wanted the world to see him as grown. The world obliged and handed him a grown man's bill. No shortcuts, no courtesy extensions because of a last name. Just the exact cost of the life he said he was ready to carry. On the other side of that cost sits Nana under a microscope that doesn't blink. The internet pinned a label on her: fast schemer, opportunist, long game specialist, and now every move is judged against it. If she posts, it's performative. If she stays quiet, it's strategic. That's the trap. Once people think you're running a play, they'll find the play in whatever you do. Maybe she planned it all. Maybe she didn't. Either way, the perception is stubborn, and perception writes headlines longer than any caption can correct. T.I. did what veterans do. He read the pattern and cut the wire before it burned the house down. He didn't disown his son. He didn't turn this into a victory lap. He set a boundary and walked it like a line of code, consistent, unemotional, repeatable. If King wanted autonomy, he got autonomy, with the peace and pressure that comes attached. That's not punishment. That's parenting at altitude. It looks harsh in clips because discipline always looks harsh when it doesn't come with a soft landing. Now it's execution time. If King is serious, he has a path that flips the narrative fast. Disappear into the studio, stack quality records, and let the songs walk into rooms his name can't. Keep the camera off when the temperature rises. Apologize without theatrics. Show up for appointments, for bills, for the hard, boring parts that keep a kid safe and a life orderly. There's nothing glamorous about it, which is exactly why it works. Consistency is louder than any live stream. Because here's the quiet truth. The Harris name can open doors, but it can't hold them open. And a baby won't care about a headline. That child will only know who showed up. If King shows up on time, every time people will recalibrate. The same timeline that clowned him will start saying words like growth and focus. The same blogs that ran with chaos will pivot to the comeback arc. That's how fast public memory flips when discipline does the heavy lifting. As for Nana, the only counter to suspicion is service. Be present, be steady, be small when the moment screams to be big. If the relationship is real, the work will prove it. If it isn't, the pressure will. Either way, the story will sort itself without another public spar. That's the part the internet can't control: time. So we end where all legacy families eventually arrive: the fork between image and adulthood. Image wants the last word. Adulthood doesn't speak, it documents. One path keeps the comments loud and the future small. The other keeps the comments bored and the future big. T.I. drew his line. Tiny's watching quietly. The family isn't rushing in with a net. King asked to be measured like a man. The scale is right here. The only question left is simple, and it's the one every parent hopes their child answers without an audience. When the noise fades and the bill is due, who are you really?